All right. Good evening. Well, it's an evening for me, and I've got a tasty beverage in hand. I just figured I wanted to do a stream. That's why I call these random code streams because it's when the spirit moves me, so to speak, and work on fixing this bug that I just stumbled across in rocks. And it's it may be one that only takes me 5 minutes to fix, or maybe one that I'll spend an hour or two on tonight and just go screw it. I can't figure it out right now. I don't know. They could go many different ways, but I'm going to give it a whirl. And one of the things that I've been thinking about when I'm doing a coding stream is, and I've seen other people do this, and it's nothing new, it's no big deal, but to have some music playing in the background, the problem is that you just can't pick any arbitrary music because of copyrights and all this other stuff. And I don't want to get in trouble by playing some music that I really like. And I want it to be like nothing with like lyrics, just something like atmospheric in the background, and do it that way. Why is my phone being stupid? It's like I can't connect to anything. Come on. You can do all the things, right? AT&T is not that bad. I switch my phone to AT&T while I'm doing streaming because I don't want to be on the same network, just for reasons. But man, it's being it's like not able to go anywhere, which is hilarious. Can anything work on this right now? Is AT&T down that badly? Holy crap! I can't get anything on this phone right now. That's awesome. Maybe I will just go online and just be on my network and say that's fine. Let's just do that. Let's just do that. I'm not doing anything graphically intensive or anything like that on this stream. So yeah, there we go. View channel. Hey, look at that. Hey. Didn't drop anything. They say, oh look, I'm a viewer. All right. So anyway, what I was saying is I didn't want to get into trouble by playing just any music. I mean, there's artists like Jeff Pierce that I really like, and other people that they do some stuff that's just great for background atmospheric type of stuff. But again, I don't just want to play it, and I want to respect any rights that are there. And trying to find out if music is copyrighted that you can't play it and is always kind of a fun treat. So I thought about it. I'm like, there's songs that I've written in the past that are just instrumentals, and I'm just going to play the like very quietly in the background, just something to kind of have. That's why I have my headphones on, because like, why would I code with headphones on? But I want to make sure that the music level is decent. It's okay in the playback. So I created a simple list. I'm just going to repeat. It's just 4 songs. It's about, was it 40 minutes of content? And where did I see like all these together was like, well, I could just do the math off the top of my head, I guess. What are you doing? What are you doing? My God. There we go. Okay. So it's like what, 4, 12, 12, 17, 30, 35 minutes. And I'll just play it through and do that. The first song here, Caulked. So 3 of these, I don't know why this says Dirty Pretty Things here. I have no idea what it is. That's from a album that I did. Like, why does it think the artist it's me? I don't know why this came up with that name. But in any event, these 3 songs by Sidetrack Project are actually written with a friend of mine, Mike Hodnick. He goes by Kindome. He does a lot of programmable experimental music that actually, if you ever listen to my or watch my free code session videos, the music that's at the beginning and the end is actually written by him. And that's okay. That stuff is fine. I kind of like that when he does. He can do some stuff that's just like, it's not my jam, not my thing. But he loves doing it. People love listening to that stuff. And I'm like, cool, I've got nothing against that. But in any event, long time ago, I mean, it was like back in 2000, and it was right before my first son was born. I mean, God, that was almost 20 years ago. Holy crap. We met and realized we like playing music, so we decided to get together and write a whole bunch of songs together. And then we did it again, probably 4 or 5 years later, something like that. And then he went off to do his solo career. But three of these songs are songs that we wrote. This Caulked one was actually just a jam, and we call it Caulked because I think he had a caulk gun downstairs in his basement that he was just building up at the time. And that was actually kind of fun. That ended up sounding really good. Restraint is very just kind of, is a very restrained song. It only has like 3 or 4 instruments on it, but I like the way that ended up. This one I wrote many years ago, probably when I was 19 or 20, on a 4-track recorder, bouncing tracks. So that one doesn't sound as good quality-wise, but I still love it. I still love the atmosphere it has. And then Empyrean is actually based on books by Stephen Lawhead that I wrote when I was in college. And I remember the song that I wrote and the arrangement, and I played it for Mike, and then we ended up recording it, and I was really happy with the way that sounded too. So I'm just going to put this on repeat and play it while I'm doing this debugging session. But before I get the music started, let me just go through really quick what this is, because then as I start thinking about how I'm going to fix this, then I'm going to start pausing. So this is in Rocks. If you don't know what, first of all, if you don't know what Rocks is a mocking library that I've written that works in .NET. I mean, C# specifically. I've never tried it with F#, but C# and VB. Who uses VB? So it's like MOQ and Substitute. The big difference is that it uses source generators. In fact, there are some other libraries out there that I've actually discovered that people have written to do source mocking as with source generators, but they all seem to kind of died on the vine. They never kept up with the maintenance and whatnot. As far as I know, I have the only library that actually is still getting active maintenance. That's a source generator based one. And it's nice because anything that you can do in C#, Rocks can handle. Like from a mocking standpoint, if you have a class that has virtual members that I can inherit from or an interface, I should be able to mock it. So, you know, it actually supports a lot of more edge cases than the other libraries do, and it's pretty fast. And I've done a lot of work to work on the performance of Rocks and yada yada yada. You can look, on the repository here to get all the details. One of the apps that I have that I use to test this is this code generation test. And if you look at all the references, there's a whole bunch of references to other NuGet packages. And what I end up doing is I look through all the types within the assemblies in these packages and see if I can mock them. And then if I can, what I do is I just write a piece of C# code that I compile dynamically using the project and whatnot in memory, and then I compile it. I don't try to test it that way. I've got test projects that test all the ins and outs of what the library actually does. This just says, if I find a type that I think I can mock, then write code to actually do that and see what gets generated. And if that has errors, then report them. This has been a huge help for me in finding all these different cases that I never thought of. And I really like having this around and running it, just because I'll find things that I didn't anticipate. And as projects get updated, packages get updated, things change that I didn't anticipate. And that's helped me exercise my code even more so. And so there's this one in here that's from Language EXT. Oops, that's not the button I wanted to hit. That's the button I wanted to hit. And so it's from this library, languageext.core. Let's actually go. Come on. Let's actually go to NuGet, which I've been amazed, like in recent history. They've really made this site fast now. It is very speedy. Okay. Now, I really don't know what this library does. A lot of the libraries that I've picked, I don't necessarily know like the details around them. I just heard about them. I'm like, I should pick this one, include it, and see what happens. So, what they're actually designed to do, I'm not sure. This one is primary library in the Language EXT functional programming framework. Uses and abuses the features of C# to provide a pure functional programming base class library that, if you squint, can look like extensions to the language itself. The desire here is to make programming in C# much more robust by helping the engineer's inertial flow in the direction of pure functional code rather than imperative. Okay, I mean, sounds kind of cool. And then you see there's all these types and things in there and whatnot. Great. But there's one type that got updated recently, this monad IO. And here's the thing that I also want to bring up rather briefly, but I think it's important. Typically in .NET, you don't have to do this, but it's an idiom that people follow, which is that your interfaces should have an I in front of it. I can't do that here because this is code that was decompiled or found or from the repository itself. But I typically see interfaces with I in front of it. It's just, it's a holdover. You may not like it, and I would understand that, but that's what people do. And so when I see this without an I in front of it, I immediately make an assumption that's not an interface, and in this case it is. So it's also when people complain about not putting async at the end of a method that returns a task of some kind. And again, you may not like that. You don't have to do it, but it's kind of an idiom that you should follow because reasons. And again, you may disagree with it, and that's fine. I'm not, not here necessarily to argue that. I just follow that convention. What is done in the base class libraries, I try to follow as much as I think makes sense. So in any event, this interface, it derives from these interfaces, and well, it makes sure that it does this self-referencing thing where the type parameter is actually of this type, and then it derives, or it also has to be of this monad type. So it actually doesn't derive from anything. But whenever I find a bug in Rocks, I always try to come up with a simple code example outside of the type I find it from, because I want to focus on just how the error is popping up. This one, I couldn't do it. So I'm going to have to just use this type and kind of figure out where this is, how this is coming about. But what's happening is you'll notice that there's 4 methods on it. Okay. Now, if you're new to C# or you use C# for a long time, you may notice that these methods are static, but they have implementations. So interfaces have changed dramatically in recent history with C# and .NET itself, in that they can have different accessibility or visibility. They can be public, protected, internal, those types of things. They can be static and have an implementation. They can be static and abstract. They can declare static abstract operators now. It's much more expressive than what it used to be. So this is actually valid. But what's happening is when I give this type to Rocks, it's trying to mock it, and I think it's trying to actually mock these methods, which it should not do. It should actually look at this and say, there's nothing to mock on it, and I just don't do anything with it. Okay. But I can't figure out, I tried to just make a static one and that didn't happen or something. I don't know. So I'm going to have to dig into this and say, why does Rocks think that this interface is actually mockable? Now, before I start playing the music and actually getting into this, there is a feature in Rocks I'm actually seriously considering looking at. Where is it? Support static abstract members. Again, I got to add in my documentation that this is kind of like a rule of thumb with Rocks. If you can have a type as a base type to something, if you could hand roll your own mock yourself, Rocks should be able to handle it one way or another. And this is a spot that I can't do right now, which is if you have a static abstract member in an interface. I could do it now. Before, Rocks was actually always taking the target type as a generic parameter. That's changed in recent history. And now you actually have to do type of to do that. And if it's a generic parameter, you can't pass it in an interface with static abstract members. That's just a rule in C#. If you pass it in with a type of, that's different. So I could now handle those, but to actually handle static abstract members and mock them brings up a whole different can of worms. And I've got those documented here. So that's something I'm definitely looking at, though, to finally do and see if I can actually make that happen. But that's not this, because this are static non-virtual members that have implementations. You should not be able to override them. So let's make sure that my volume is not too loud. And let's start some background music. And if you can't really hear it, that's okay. We're not here to, crank things up too loud and be too overbearing with the background music. So how to fix this? I already got a branch in place to address this and to do all the work in here. So again, I can't, in my test project here, I don't reference any of these other NuGet libraries. So I got to figure out here first what's going on. So in my program, I have the ability to run like all the types that are actually there, but we're not going to do that. We're going to use this method and get that down a little bit. Switch my keyboard, and now I go here. So this method allows me to specify one type and go through it and see what's going on. Okay. So this program actually lets me be a little bit loosey-goosey, because what I typically do in here is I'll go into this method, and you already see I got breakpoints here. Because if I'm running into problems, what I'll do is, let's actually do this. It is the test app. That's the one that's got the start as run right now. By the way, if anybody's listening, I'll take questions on anything in programming. And I can definitely give the answer if I don't know, which I'm perfectly fine with. So the reason I put a breakpoint here is because now I'm going to look at syntax trees, and this is the one that's the actual output of the code. So we're just going to say copy the value right now and stop. And then I've just got this file mock code dump that I use just to throw generated code in, and then I can take a look at it and see like what's it doing, what's the problem. So I'm going to scroll down to here, and you can see, well, for one thing, it thinks this is a method to mock, and it shouldn't even do any of this. That's the whole point. It's not even that this is a problem. The shim thing here is actually because if you do have a member on an interface that has an implementation that's called default interface members, and what I do is I create what are called these shims. And these shims allow me to actually call the implementation on the interface. You can't do a base dot. That doesn't work. So you have to do something kind of weird like this. But that infrastructure is not the problem here, because none of this should be generated in the first place. So now I have to figure out why this type thinks it has 4 members to implement. In fact, I think, yeah, I can tell because these handler things are set up for each member that it thinks that you can mock or do expectations on. So there's lift, there's lift.io, there's to.io, and map.io. And those are the ones that when I did show you the actual source code, those are the 4. 1, 2, well, actually, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So now let's actually go in rocks. This is where I got to spend a little bit of time thinking about where do I actually do this. It's not mocked type. That's not the one. Sometimes I don't remember where I put things. And I always made fun of Raku, a friend of mine that he's written a framework called CSLA that's been around for years and years and years. And if I ever had a question with something in the framework, I'd be like, how do you not know this? You wrote the thing. And he'd say, well, yeah, but there's a lot in there that other people have written, and I don't know it all off the top of my head. And, well, now I know what that feels like because there is a lot of code here. And just to support everything that needs to be done. And I don't always remember in my head where everything is. So where would this be? Where would this be? Is it in the builders? Is it in create? Mock type? No, that's the build. That's actually, those are all the things that actually I go through and when I realize I have a type to mock. Let's actually, yeah, let's go that way. Let's go not to the analyzer, to the generator. And then we go to mock model create, right? That should be the one. Well, that is, why is that over like that? It should be like that. How dare you? And yes, I am a tab person, team tab. Mock model create. Let's go in there because that probably is where we get. And also playing this music, and when I was putting this little soundtrack together and I'm going to repeat, this has started to make me think, you know, I should actually spend some time in the future writing just my own music to have in the background. And then I can add on to this and play that. Get me back into recording music again. I've got a desktop computer, get it just some decent software to record on, and you know, I don't need to record my drums. I can record my guitar and do bass and maybe get my keyboard over here and play that. But you know, I don't necessarily need to have a huge setup, just something where I can start doing some recording again. Maybe this is going to inspire me to start doing some more music. That'd be a nice thing to do. So, any event. Let's see, where do we get methods here, right? And so it's in mockable method discovery. So this is what goes through a type and tries to figure out, equatable is not a word. An interface is like, oh, well, this is an XML comment, so it won't do the XML commenty things. So this is where we're getting, it's an interface, so it should be going into this method here. And that's a local method. So we're just going to put a breakpoint here, and we're going to start stepping through this and figuring out where, I got to delete that code, or I got to comment it out because now it won't actually run. But let's run this and let's see if we can figure out why we're discovering those methods. Okay, so F10. So now we're going to get all the members where is it a method to examine? This doesn't mean it's a method I'm going to pick, but this is a method I'm just going to school catch one of your coding streams. I'm going to look through some of them. Well, thanks, Taylor. I do appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that comment. Thank you. It's, the stuff that I get into that I code and do streams on is sometimes a little bit off the beaten path. Like I'm not starting to do like, the hell is that new net framework that they're getting into? It's Aspire. Yes, it's like, it was right on the tip of my tongue, that one. It's like, yeah, that might be cool to get into and take a look at, you know, but this is the stuff I find fun. And, you know, other people do other things, and that's awesome. So in any event, this is method to examine. This is where I'm going to go look at each method. And what I should be saying is it a method to examine? We don't want to declare non-virtual static methods. Later on, mock panel will make a check for static abstract members. So it should not be static and not abstract and not virtual. And it should be abstract or virtual. And it should be an ordinary method kind and can be referenced by name. That one is actually, I ran into a case with a library where they did obfuscation. And so their public types actually all have right methods, but some of them would actually be like internal or protected members, which you technically could inherit, you know, to override, but they didn't realize that those couldn't be obfuscated. So those could still technically show up, and that was throwing rocks off. So I had to put in this check here to saying it's something that I can actually, it's a speakable name. It's something that I could actually grab because I can't put in methods that can't be generated as legitimate C# method names. So I'm guessing it's something in here. Let's just put a breakpoint in here and let's go into this. So this method is one of them. It's the lift.io one. Is it static? It is true. Is it abstract? That's false. And is it virtual? It's true. You know, when I was in college, and I've said this many times, I took a Boolean logic class, which was great, but I suck at Boolean logic. I sit there and sweat over it all the time. So this is coming back as false. All of these are coming back. So the not of that would be it's true and see, it's thinking it's virtual. And we don't want that. See, that's interesting on an interface. Why would I do that? Like, why would I care about this being... I've had to put this in here for some reason. I bet if I took this out, it would break it. But we definitely only want abstract members. We don't want to include non-virtual static methods. Right, but it's coming back and saying that this is virtual, which is a little interesting. This is why I try to write so many tests around my code, especially this library. Out of any library I've ever done, I want to make sure they've got tests around this because, man, there's so many cases I've run into. So I think this whole thing is going to eventually come back because this is going to be true, and it's going to say, well, it's not abstract, but it is virtual, and it's an ordinary method, and it can be referenced by name. So yes, we can take it. Well, that's explaining why this is coming back in the list. Oh, great. Bird flu, first human case of it. Wonderful. Jeez. Great. Wonderful. Wow. Yay. All right. So why am I making this check here? This is where I should have documented it better. Like if it's we're in interfaces. We're not in a class, which is different. Although I believe in here, no, I don't. Where do I all call this method? The only place I do it is up here. Okay, that makes sense. Why would I care at all about static members? I couldn't do anything with them anyway, right? It can't be static. We don't want to include non-virtual static. There's something in the back of my head that I think I put this in here because somewhere, it might be EF, but somewhere they were doing something where I think they might have had an interface. It might have been on a class. But they had I think they might have had an interface that they were doing like different new static versions of toString. And that's why I do this here, because I had to include them. Now we need to explicitly implement matching methods from the object itself. But if it was like a toString static new on an interface, it was causing some kind of weird problems. Yeah, later on in mock model, I make a check for static abstract members, which is true. I think if I look at all the places here that I'm methods and properties. If I find any that are abstract and static, then I say, well, we can't implement static abstract members, which makes sense. Yeah, and Taylor, that's exactly why I do this, because I personally like listening to people's thought processes when they're doing stuff and how they're breaking things down, because they may do it a totally different way or have a different approach to it in their head, and I may learn something just by, even if I don't understand the code or the language they're using, just kind of what they're doing to get to that point. So, and again, with rocks, this is sometimes very tricky to handle things correctly because of all the corner cases I've ever run into. So I get this. We definitely don't want to have something like this, but I'm still wondering. That's okay. That's kind of why we do this, is because we still want these methods to come out to give people a warning to say, we're not going to handle static abstract members. What I'd really like to do is just eliminate them altogether and just say, well, we don't have any members to mock. Okay, now I'm starting to think this through. The reason I put this diagnostic here is because I also wanted to do something to say, well, if you're giving me static abstract members thinking I'm going to mock it, I wanted to be able to tell you that that's something that Rocks doesn't support. But to do that, I actually have to return these here and report this. What I maybe can do instead is I return, this is a mockable method discovery. Maybe what I do is I have like a flag. I have a field here, or property, doesn't matter, that I can set. And I can just say, has static abstract members on it. And if it has any, then this will just flag it. And then instead of returning all those, I wouldn't do that here. I wouldn't have all those in the list. They'd already be removed. But then I also could still report and say, well, if you expected, because they're static and abstract, you should be able to create implementations for those. Well, yes, I'm working on it. And eventually that would go away. But that way I can't do anything with them anyway. And I think that's making this a little bit more complicated than it should be. Friend of mine, Green Bay Packers. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I know. They're in Brazil. And I'm not watching them. I grew up in Wisconsin, so even though I barely follow football anymore, and it's not something I spend hardly any time even paying attention to, there's still like this little bit of tangential watching of the Packers, at least to see like maybe how they're doing every game, but I don't watch any football anymore. But I did know that they're playing the first game in NFL history in Brazil. So interesting. Anyway, if you hear people talking, this song has Mike and I doing some narration from the book, and then it stops. The rest of the song doesn't have it in there. It's just at the beginning. But if you're hearing voices, that's what that is. So I'm starting to think that maybe what I do here is, instead of inaccessible members, that doesn't really do anything, does it? We're returning a new what? Author Mecca results, and then has inaccessible abstract members. That's where I'm kind of wondering, because the methods themselves, where's that defined? Yeah, that's down there. That's we're making a new, that's where I'm kind of like, new what? Mockable methods. Oh, I'm still debugging. Okay. I don't, Target type new is good, but in some cases it makes it a little bit harder to read in what's going on. So I'm kind of thinking what we do is we say, make this a little bit more of a, will be a local method, but that doesn't mean then that could actually access, no, it should be, but is it local just to it's local to the method, so it wouldn't be able to see any instance fields, I don't believe. Because what I could do is get rid of it, method examine, and then say here, if self method is static, and self method is virtual or self method is abstract. No, not that. There. And then I do something here to say, just stop processing it. So we could have a property here that says internal rule as static abstract members, and just say get. Maybe I have to say private set as well, I'm not sure. Okay, and I've got to remember to take this off. If I break anything, that's why I have tests, because I run it all. So this dot crap, this is a well, we're gonna have to change that. Gonna have to change that. Sorry, it may seem a little weird that I'm getting into my own music, but you know, I wrote my music the way I wanted it to because I wanted to enjoy it. You know, I've never understood people that write music. I mean, yes, you're your own worst critic, you're your own worst enemy, but it's also like, this is the time where you get to craft what you want to do. So hopefully you're writing something that you're enjoying. You're not writing things that you think are crap. So this dot has static end is true. Yeah, now it's like, it is read only. Fine. So get methods for interface. And this is also good about why we do things in branches, because if I completely screw all this up, I can always just blow away the branch and start over, or back out what I've been doing. So we first want to see report if this method is static, is a static abstract method. Okay. Now we want to say whether it's virtual or not, because I'm kind of curious. If I go to the handy dandy sharp lab IO, let's say I just put in public interface base, and I say static. I don't think you can say static virtual void foo. You can. Shows you what I know. Public class base. Here it's my base. And now let's say override. Yeah, no, you can't do foo here. You can't override the virtual void. What you could do, I bet, and I hate the names I'm using here, I sub base, which derives from iBase. And now, yeah, now it's giving me like it's hiding when that's not our intent. So we want to say override, but there's no way to override that. So yeah, I think we just in general want to, at that point, we just want to report that we have static abstract members and then just don't include them. So we could say here, if self method, if not self method is static. Okay. Now we can move on and do whatever we want. And so we want to get all, wait, how far? Okay, methods for interface. So we're at this line right here, right? So somewhere here, let's push that over and then do that. And then that should, so now what we're saying is we'll still report this. Now we got to come back though to not that, but here and say if methods has methods result any. Where is that popping up? Methods is a mockable methods. Mockable methods discovery. Oh, we're returning mockable methods. Okay. Okay, that's fine. Okay, fine. We'll take this off. I now realize what I was supposed to be doing. Let's copy that. Come back up here. Coding is fun. This is actually surprising. I usually do this method discovery and always qualify whether it's a, this is actually just a thing I do, method discovery. Get methods for class. Okay, so let's come back here to interface. And we're going to say var has static abstract members, which is false. And we're going to say here, I'm going to say this or equal self is static and it's one of these. There. So now we got that. And we won't include it because we won't include any static members, which I'm still a little leery of. I think that's going to screw something up somewhere that I'm not anticipating. So now we want this. And of course, it's not going to do that because it doesn't know what that is. But we're going to put that in there. We're going to say bool that, and then this, not that, except that, that. And then we'll say, thank you. We'll say thank you. And we got that in there now. So that's good, except it's going to break this one because, and in this case, we just pass it false because that would never be a case here. And so now what we can do is say method has static abstract members. We haven't done the properties yet, which we should do. My guitar solo. So these songs are somewhere out on SoundCloud. Remember what that is? That's where we put all my stuff. It's still there if you can find it. So that at least should take care of this. We want to come back and do the same thing with properties because you can have static abstract property members. And we're not even looking at operators, which I guess is something I should do, but this is now balancing the how far do I go in solving this problem. So we've got that in there now. So what will the program do with just this one type? It doesn't do anything. In fact, let's go into debugger. We'll look at syntax trees. Yeah, there's just two. This is what we're building in our test app to tell it to try to create a mock of this thing. And then this is a type that I'm always producing, rough struct argument. That's a new thing that's coming in Rocks 9, where I use the anti-constraint allows rough structs. So I had to actually generate this because source generators can only target .NET Standard 2.0. So you can't do that directly. But it didn't produce a third one. And that's actually good because that's meaning it's doing the right thing now. Okay. We would still want, though, any tests, and I know I have them somewhere, where we would flag static abstract members correctly. So let's see what happens when we run tests. I'm kind of cringing right now because I'm like, what's it going to do? Am I going to miss a case here? Am I missing something? And you say, so these tests take a little bit of time because it's doing a lot of building a syntax tree, building a compilation reference, doing the generation run, and hundreds of tests. So that takes a little bit of time. Let's see if it goes back. 50 failed. Why? But this is why we write tests. Rock analyzer obsolete tests. That's odd. Okay, well that's something. Well, that's new because we used to say 2, actually 3. Oh, I think I know what this is doing. You notice it's got a get use in here. It's actually, yeah, it gets the property, but every property is basically syntactic sugar over a method. And so it's also picking up, I think, the method as well. Because we were saying we were going to get 2, and oh, we were probably getting 2, one for the create and one for the make. Because in a make, we can't do an obsolete, but we're also picking up the method now as well. And I know why. And I know why. Because we have to say it can't be static. It can't be static, and it has to be. I don't know why I picked that up as well. And it has to be these. It's got to be. It can't be static. And it has to be abstract or virtual. We're just going to include that, even though it shouldn't come up. And these. So we need to basically grab I love the bells that we got in there too. That was fun. So yeah, we basically need to do that. So let's include those. And let's not run all tests. Let's just run the tests here. Because the can be referenced by name, get underscore name could not be referenced. So that would at least get rid of 1. Probably close that out. Six failed. So that's, yeah, it's a lot less. This one we know about because we're now saying, because we're not returning anything, that can be overridden. Yeah. But it's only doing it with 3. That's interesting. Oh, because we do the diagnostic twice, but now we're going to add the 3rd one in there. Okay, so that one, I can come back to that one. What about these other ones? Discovery. When interface has explicit interface implementation. Oof. What happened here? Give mockable methods when interface has explicit interface implementation. Damn it. Yep. See, this is why I write tests, because I think these, there's one here with explicit implementation because it didn't even make the file. Open generation didn't make the file. This slightly busted it in a way I didn't expect. Okay. Well, now what I could do is I took off the is method to examine here because I wanted to basically get everything. But yeah, I didn't realize. Why don't I just say if is method to examine self method? Because that already had the logic that we were doing here. And now just all I did by breaking this off here is that I wanted to capture that we did have static abstract members. But I actually don't want that to be something that's to be examined here. Now this gets us back basically to where we were before, in that if I don't want to run the test here. These should all pass now because it's essentially the same thing as before. Hopefully. That's the logic I have in my head right now. Five failed. Why? This is where I think I'm going to back out my work and start over again because I don't know what I... Like, I think I know more than I did before, but not enough. Why taking the is method to examine off of here, breaking this? I'm just going to throw some code in my notes here. That's one thing I do when I'm debugging is I basically create markdown files that I just do my note taking in, you know. And then what I also do is I go to my repos, JSON rocks, docs. And do that. And that's part of the branch. And they'll eventually get merged. Well, that's what I want. But when no. I can just undo. I want to keep the file. I want to undo these though. Yes. Okay. So now, let's run my tests here because this should be back to normal, right? Right? If I get 5 breaking, I'm going to be very mad because that's not what should have happened. Okay, all pass. Good. So, let's now, don't do this yet here. What we're going to do is say, if is method to examine on self method. Okay. And then we're going to go down here. Now, logically, that should be the same thing. We're just now letting all the methods in, but then we're going to filter it here and say, only if it's one we want to examine are we going to let it through. Right? Let's run all those tests again. My poor computer works so hard when I run this. See, 5 fail. Why? Oh, no. Because we're adding methods in here. Oh, that's not right. Wait, let's take this off. No, don't do that. So now this. No, what is this doing? For each self method in this mock type. Oh, I'm missing it down here. Hello, McFly. Yeah, I was missing that. I didn't realize it's being called in 2 places, right? Yep. Yup. Okay. Now we can say if self method. And now where we're going to put the closing brace is there. I am so smart, SMRT. Now we're going to say if self-base method. And that. So those are the only two places that called it. Now this should be the same behavior as before. Some of this, I admit, in Rocks is kind of just, I don't want to say rushed, but like this method is a little bit of a run-on. There's no doubt about it. I could break that up and make that a little bit easier, like maybe have some of those all be local methods to the one method and be a little bit more organized that way. I don't know. It could be helpful. Now they all pass. Good. Now, let's put this in there. Okay. And so now what we're going to do is report that. And I think I'm also going to be fixing another bug I noticed by doing what I'm about to do, which is I'm going up the interface hierarchy to all the interfaces that this implements from. And I noticed there's a bug, I don't know if I've reported it yet, but where I'm not reporting static abstract members on base interfaces. This is going to take care of this. There. And now we'll go back to doing buckable methods. And we want to do that in the class one as well. And this one, we're going to pass in this, which is going to do the force of what I showed before. And then, come on, give me all the love here. Come on. You did it before. I don't have Copilot on my own account, but it did it before. It noticed what I was doing and it did the right thing. So I don't know why it's doing it here. This is also a style that I've picked up on the project I'm on at work. Member on the team does this where he has all of the parameters on separate lines. And originally I was like, but I'm kind of grooving on it a little bit, I have to admit. You know, I'm still trying to figure out how exactly I like it, but I kind of like it. I kind of do. Not going to lie. And then this one will be false again. And so then let's get rid of some of these because we know those aren't problems or shouldn't be problems anymore. And then where did we do this? It was here. We can say has static abstract members. Now we're going to want to do the same thing with properties, right? Same thing with properties. But let's run this again and see what happens. By the way, if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, please do so. I want to get to 1,000 first. That's a big first step. So I'm trying to get to 1,000. So please subscribe if you have not already. You know, I get annoyed when I watch other YouTubers do it, but it's true. I mean, hitting a subscribe button would be oh so nice. I would appreciate it. Now this shouldn't break anything again. And it doesn't. Good. And also now when we run our code, that type shouldn't show up anymore. If I look at my syntax trees, it's 2. Those don't show up. Excellent. Excellent. Now, we do want to do the same thing with properties. We want to do the same thing with properties by having mockable properties report bool. And then we're going to do this, that. Because again, this will force the issue of any callers to say, you got to now pass this into us. Thank you. There, it did it there. Thank you. Kind of just let a code formatter like prettier handle all these formatting decisions because it's universal instead of one dev doing it one way. And yeah, but I own this damn repo and it's my way or the highway. So, I mean, true. But I also in concert want to have styles enforced and not just default to .NET does it this way. That's why I like editor config and having an editor config try to enforce style as much as possible so that if you use like a .NET format or Pretty or whatever, it should honor those settings as well. I mean, yes, I'm all for standards, for code formatting standards. I'm all for them. I'm all for, people following the same conventions and everything like that, and not one person dictating and everybody agreeing on something. But there are some things that, like, I think by default, the .NET team, if you look at their code, they don't always use code blocks. If it's a one-liner, they don't put a code block around it. And I absolutely 100% disagree with that. So I always think you should have your code within a code block, even if it's a one-liner. So, but again, teams should be consistent. I love tabs. I'm team tabs over team spaces. At work, we use spaces for an indentation. I'm like, all right, as long as we're consistent on this code base, you better damn well believe, yeah, we're using, that wasn't tabs, that was spaces, how dare. And see, here's the thing. Of all tools, Visual Studio, jeez, it's just one beer and I'm not even done with it. It should honor this whenever I'm writing code or changing code or editing code. It doesn't. How dare it? All right, anyway, I'm getting distracted. So here, what do we want to do? What are we doing? How are we doing? Well, this one is from classes, and so we don't care about that. But what we want to do is, I bet, this is being called, and guess what? 2 places. Okay? So, what are we going to do? We're going to take this off. Put that there, and then we're going to say if self property, this is like philosophical, like self-examination or something, I don't know. So there, and then here we'll take it off and put that there, except it's self-base property. Okay. And then we'll do that, and then down to there, I believe. So that should do the same thing that we were doing before. I'll add in the check in a moment because we are not passing that in. Let's go all out. Why not? Okay. So let's grab that. No. There. Okay, and now we want to do what we were doing, a mockable method. No, not that. We can get rid of that. Discovery. So we want to report this. Right. Actually, let's go back here and say has static abstract methods. And then has static abstract properties. Okay. Let's put this here as well. Oh, no, not there. It's got to be here, and then that becomes that, becomes that, becomes that. And then we can pass in here has static abstract properties. Great. Now we come back to the mock model, and now we don't have to do an any here. We can also say has static abstract members. A little bit easier to read actually that way. And we're doing a filter on it anyway. We're just doing this, you know, this was making the for each a little bit smaller because we were excluding them, but we're going to exclude them here anyway. So 6 cents, 1/2 dozen of the other, you know. And the thing is, if I support static abstract members like I said I was going to, this is actually going to go away because now I'm going to have to start actually supporting them. So, And by the way, to support static abstract members with mocking, I have to do this weird, my idea is to actually do something where I'm storing things in async local and hoping that the expectations, because on a static, how do you differentiate between tests that are running in parallel, which static member is being called and which test, and what expectations are being set on it? So that's going to get to be quite... If I can't use async local consistently, I can't do... I don't know how else to smuggle state across invocation and call path boundaries with statics. So it'll be fun to try for some version of fun, because who wouldn't be coding on a Friday night? I mean, come on. Okay, enough babbling. We should now have this created. So again, this should not break any tests here, right? I'm proud of the music I wrote. I'm not saying it's the most amazing stuff in the world, but I like it. I like what I've done. Like I said, you should like what you've done. You know, it's your time to be creative. It's your time to do whatever you want the way you want to do it. And they all pass. Good. What I'm going to do now is shut down startup again, because the weird thing with source generators is Visual Studio holds on to like the version you built, and there's ways to get around it. The easiest way is just to shut down Visual Studio, start it up again. It's not that big of a deal. So we'll do that. Be in preview mode, bring up rocks. And now I'm going to run all my tests. Let's make sure everything builds first, because the integration tests here, you notice it references my rocks project as an analyzer project. So it's actually it's referencing it the way you would reference the NuGet package, and so it's actually going to be creating all the mock code and everything like that. So we shouldn't have broken anything. Shouldn't have. We don't. Let's run all the tests. So this will now run all the integration tests as well, along with the unit tests. In this song that's playing in the background right now, there's like a 12/8 at the end. There's a 5/8 that we just went through. There's 6/4. You know, I wrote this to, and that's the huge influence. They started with Rush and progressive bands and trying to do things that aren't in the same time signature, you know, and vary it up a little bit, but to make it smooth. Like, one of the things that, at least I think, that Rush really innovated with is doing songs in different time signatures, but that you weren't necessarily aware of it. Like, Losing It is in 5/8. So it's got that, you know, it's not necessarily the beat that most people like 4/4 or whatever, but they make it smooth, and that's something I've always wanted to do, because to me it keeps it more interesting if it's not always just, you know, a 4/4 or whatever. Not that that's wrong, that's fine, but I like to, Yeah, that's one of the things to try experiment with music is to vary it up a little bit. But then there's sometimes I just like pure atmospheric music and just very, all music's good. It's all good stuff. All right, test passed. Let's just run the CodeGen app, and now it should report back nothing, which is good because it means we're no longer picking up those methods to do. Why it was doing them in the first place? Like you can see here, I tried to do it, and it just wouldn't do it. I'm like, and I tried to create my own test. I really should create a test. That's one thing. Even if I get this all to work, I should try to create a test to cover what I just did. We'll come back to this. So this is going to take about 2 or 3 minutes. Let's run through all the types. There are going to be some errors that show up because those are different bugs that I have to work on that are not related to this. But we'll let this go, and hopefully this doesn't cause any more bugs, and it actually gets rid of the thing I'm seeing and gets rid of another one I was seeing. So how's it going? How's everybody doing? For anybody that's out there watching this. By the way, I am, like I put in YouTube, I did say that I was going to start streaming Mass Effect. I am planning on doing that starting either tomorrow or Sunday. And if I play tomorrow, I will probably also play on Sunday. As I've said, I've tried Mass Effect, just the first game, a couple of times. And honestly, I got kind of bored. I didn't get the craze that people have over the game. My older son, has actually played all 3 games, not Andromeda yet, but he played all 3 games, and he's almost been begging me to play him again, to give it one more try. And so I'm like, fine. I will try to play them, but no guarantee. So we're going to see how the first game goes. I think the first time I played it, I didn't really get that far. I was just like, what's the point? I'm kind of like, there's too much reading. And then I tried playing it the second time, and I think I got to the Citadel. I think that's what it is. And then I'm just like, I'm talking to a bunch of aliens. What's the point of this? So I don't know. Maybe my older son can help me out and go, just go here, and this will be more fun, and you'll learn more stuff. I don't know. But I'm willing to give it one more try for family, because that's what it's all about. Family. So. By the way, if you just saw right there, Microsoft Entity Framework Core, EF has some extremely messed up definitions that have caused me a handful of bugs and rocks that I just did not know that you could or could not do something that way. I was just like, holy crap. All right. You can tell this is also going by in alphabetical order, English alphabetical order. So once we start getting to the W's, there's some W ones. Then that's where because it's like how much red is going to fly by. Getting there. And some of them are 0, which is good because it's a test to show there's just none in there. So, yes, I'm using Twilio, 1500 types it finds. Ah, this looks good. Yes, there's red, but this is a lot less red than what I was seeing before. This is actually, I think, really good. Yes, I think this is one that I know of that I gotta solve later. This is another one that I have to solve later. And this is another one I gotta solve later. But all those other ones went away. That's awesome. In fact, hold on. Did I actually report that as a bug here? This is what I'm working on. New members cause issues. Is that the one? This is the one that you're seeing, the first set of errors here that I flew by with. This one, the cannot override inherent member. Something's getting weird. I've got a reproducible case here that I have to dig through later. This is the one I'm working on. That's the types. Then you see, that's a fun one. That's the generic types. So no, I never really reported that one. That's right, because of reasons. Okay, I think I've actually got this solved, which is cool. Now, do I... See, here's the thing. I just said I should write a tester on it, but if I write a test now, what like... I couldn't get the test to fail with reproducible code, so I think I might bite the bullet on this one and just be like, well, the only way to test it is to go back to my 9.0 branch, make another branch off of that with the code that was there, and then figure out how to write a test to get that to show up the way I was expecting it to. What time is it? So 10. I've been doing this for about an hour and a half. I think, though, I'm not going to close this out. Let's make sure that I've got what I've got here. 337 added. Check. Redid the check for static members, methods, and properties. Seems to fix it. Okay, so I think I'm going to do that off camera because I kind of want to end the stream. The song that's playing in the background is the one I want to end on, so, and it's getting near the end of it, so I think I'm going to stop here, but I should try to create a test there. Well, you know what? Let's actually do it. If I don't get it done in time, that's fine. So let's go to Manage Branch. No, we want to go to Get Manage Branches. So I'm having a 9.0 branch here. We'll check that out. And now let's say New Branch. Get... Why am I not doing that? I'm on the 9.0 branch. So just say Get New Branch. There we go. Create test for 337. That's the number of it, right? Okay. And I'll delete this branch. The only reason I'm doing this is because I want to have I'll just put a test here. Public static async task gasync. I don't care what it is. I'm going to code here. And what I want is I have static preference. And then what I want is something like what I saw here. All I want to do is like have static public interface, static void. We'll just say lift. Okay. Well, this is returning something. We could say static string lift. We don't care what it is. We don't care that it has parameters. We're just going to say it returns lift. Right? I don't care what this does. And then I want this. And I want this to be I have static attributes. Make this a string variable. Now I don't care if this test fails because I don't, if it's generating code, that's good enough because then I know I can put it in the other branch that's real, put this code in here, and it should actually not generate anything for this. Or come up with actually diagnostics to say this should not show up. I want to see here though in this part that it's actually generating code. Huh. See, that's the problem. It's not generating the create. And I don't understand why. Like, what's the magic here that makes it think that, well, we could do what I just did, which is discovery, right? Not that. Here. Go on the, I'll just keep going. I'm fine. I'll just keep going. Is to go in here and see why it's not even picking that up. Okay, so we're going to do F10 on this. So it comes into here. The method is lift. Is it static? It's true. Is it abstract? False. Is it virtual? False. See, why is it saying it's virtual? It's not virtual in this case. But with this one, it does. It says it's virtual. I don't know why. I'm kind of curious. Sorry for blinding you. No, I want to find Monad.io. See, this is interesting. It's a different definition. Maybe this person is actually, because I think, if I remember right, ah, crap, that's on the other branch. UGet.org. Lang EX is, it's a version 5 beta. He might be doing, and not on the main branch, but may have, there's 10 branches. 5.0 is megaparsec. So there may be a release of like a 5 beta version from here, but the main doesn't have it. So actually go to this here. Let's look for Monad.io. Actually, not the class. No, that's not what we want. We want the interface. Aha! You lied to me, Visual Studio. You lie. You full of lies. That's why. Because this isn't pulling back the... In fact, wait a minute. Go, damn it. Was it Louthy, Mouthy? What was that called? Yeah, here. I bet if I look up Monad.io here, and I go to the interface... Oh no, it's static virtual. So maybe I was wrong. I don't know. I don't know what Visual Studio is doing here, but it's not showing you the public static. If I come back here and I say public static virtual string, that actually should be fine. Let's just pull this code out of here and just plop it there. It's fine. Doesn't like the name virtuals, but that's fine. Let's now run this test and let's see what we get. A failure, which is good. But we're generating code now, or we shouldn't be, because that's what I just fixed. By the way, this window sucks. Hate this window. Should just come down here. So yeah, it's making a lift here as string, and then it's going to do a shim for... Yeah, it's all wrong. But this is right, because... Good. Good. So we're going to say, we grab that, undo that. Okay, now we're going to go to git manage branches. We're going to jump back to this one. And then this one we're going to delete because we don't need it. We're now back to here. That should mean that we have our... We should. It's like 334. Why is it not there? Why does it do that sometimes? Check out 9. Let's check out 337. I specifically had this file here. I know I did. I don't know why it does that. But we're on 337. We should see our head. Yeah, we do. So we're back to that kind of normalness. Except here now, we want to say generate with static virtual members async. And in fact, let's go one step further. Let's say public static virtual string lift push get set. And that should also be legit C# code. It doesn't like push here. Oh, we could say required. Static required. So order them. Thank you. Now what's your problem? You stupid compiler. This is an interface. Is there... Oh, can you not... You can have properties in interfaces. Can I not make it... Non-nullable property push once again. Really? I'm not buying this. I'm not buying what you're selling here. What's the thing? Okay, so if I make it nullable, fine. I don't care. Don't care. Thank you. Now can I make this virtual? Good, 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 good. Shut up. There. Now what this should do is it shouldn't actually produce anything. And it won't bring that up yet because I don't know why. Yeah, these two files aren't being made. So this should actually be this. I bet there's a diagnostic coming up with this. Yeah, there's diagnostics 1. So we want to have a diagnostic result like that, except the number is this. It's not one of ours. Okay. Oh, fine. Oh, well, that's helpful. I keep forgetting to do that sometimes. Is to actually put this code, because we are using a nullable there. Okay. So then let's comment this. Do that. One passed. Yay! Yay, I don't even have to put a diagnostic there. This is showing that basically... Well, that's interesting. I can't stop myself. You would think... Because I have something... like I showed in the generator that we create... And then we come to here. And we say, yeah, we should. Okay, let's clear all breakpoints. And then go to here. This should have 0. What is in here? Why is lift showing up? It shouldn't. And this has one here too. Now I'm a little confused. Come back to this test. I mean, I think I'm doing all the right stuff, but it's... Yeah, we get lift. So, can we examine it? Yes. We can see it. We have to worry about explicit implementation. It doesn't match these object methods, which there's like... Yeah, the equals get half code those. We don't match any of those. And so then we say, we just add it. So we say true there. I have a little bit of a problem because I am including, I guess I'm glad I did this. Well, no, okay. What I am doing here is I'm saying if it's abstract, not if it's virtual. But it is still coming through that is method to examine. I fixed this the wrong way. I fixed this the wrong way. Yeah, and this is why it thinks there needs to be a shim, is because it's saying, well, you're virtual, so... I don't get what I'm saying. We don't include non-virtual static methods. Later on in mock model, I make a check for static abstract method, which is true, I do. But this is actually testing the wrong thing. It should only be testing this and pulling that code out and saying if it's static and it's abstract. You would think I'm glad I actually went down this road to write this test, because It's succeeding, but for the wrong reason. Always doubt yourself as a programmer. Always. Always doubt yourself. But now what I want to do is say, see, here I'm making the check to see if it's static abstract. I've already got what I want. So now what I want to say is to check it, not method is static and method is abstract or it's virtual and the method kind is this and this. I think that's what I need to do. I need to change down here and do this. That gets that. That changes there. We need to go to mockable property discovery for the interface. Come on. Do that. And then come down to properties for an interface. And then do the thing I'm doing here, which is to say, pull that out, say not property is static, and it's either that or that, and it's an indexer or property can be referenced by name. Yeah. And then this, again, just checks that. And then we got to do the same thing here, except for self-based property. Now what should happen let's just remove them here. Okay. Now what should happen with this is the same thing, but it shouldn't be discovering any methods at all. Oh, now it failed. Because on the make, what are we doing on a make? Well, we say make. But it's the same thing. Why would we like type to mock shams compilation? We don't actually look to see what the build type is in this case. We don't care. Oh. Yes. Why did we care about this? That's the problem. Fine, that's the first step. What I should probably do in this test is put in just like a do virtual to show that yes, it will still generate, but not these two. Of course, I'm going to break like 50 tests, aren't I? Nine. Well, they might break because of the other changes just made. Internal abstract. Yeah, make. The what? That's not. That's not true. Inaccessible abstract members. Oh, okay. Because okay, that's actually true. It's doing the right thing. It's saying this might take some more work because this is right in that it's saying you could have 5 members, one of which is inaccessible, but the other 4 you could actually mock. This is actually saying that you have an inaccessible member and then nothing else can be mocked. So there's nothing to mock on it. And those are 2 different cases. So this one might need to be broken up a little bit because I'm guessing this is just including now for some of these that there's nothing to override. Has no mockable members. I don't know why it's doing 2 here. All because now it's on the make. Yeah, because in this case it's saying we've overridden the 3 that you could on object and we sealed them. So there is nothing for you to do, even in the case of a make. So I can kind of see why I was doing what I did before by excluding it. So I have like... Wait, I want to run the tests. The Neil part, Neil Peart, sorry, Neil Peart, the off China crash splash. He also did the thing with the ride, you know, on his symbol. Okay, so only 2 failed. And they failed because this one had 2, but now we're also reporting a 3rd. And now this is trying to create, okay, that's maybe okay. So in this case, we're actually generating a make. Let's actually see. I bet it does nothing though. Wait. What is this one? Generated sources, yes. And I like doing it this way because I can see. And like I said, I'm probably going to be changing this anyway to generate code for both cases, but not for the... maybe I keep this and say generate with only static virtual members async, and then say one which generates with static virtual members. Okay, so let's grab this, put that there. Nope. Grab that. Go to here. So you can see that this works. It just doesn't really generate anything of importance. It's like, why would you do this, I guess, in a way? guess they have these? I don't know. So let's say generate with only static virtual members. And then let's come here and say generate with static virtual members non-static and. So now we're going to say this is a static lift, this is a static push. Actually, I'm going to change the names here because they don't matter, but I like being consistent. Static. This is going to change, so let's do that. We'll capture what the actual output of this is. But now we're going to have static. We're going to have just string instance lift, and it doesn't have an implementation because we're not doing default interface members. And then here we're just going to say string static push. So we're going to say instance push, get and set, and that should be okay. Just checking real quick. Yep, that's all right. So now in this case, we should actually generate source for both of these. Var create. So now you have to give me a second here because because now I got to capture the code for both of these. Okay, so let's do that. Get that. Come down here, grab all this. Move my mouse so that goes there, and then do that and this. Raw string literals are awesome. Yeah, they only did 2. And now let's get the make code. And put that there. Now this should pass. We should only have one test now that's failing in the unit test aspect, and I think that's just because we're missing a diagnostic. If we had the diagnostic in, then they should all pass. Right, that's good. I mean, we expected that. Right, so it's... Nope. I don't know, let's get that back up there. So it's basically... It's the same thing except the analyzer, and its interface has no static. And then we want our no members diagnostic, which is almost going to be the same as this, except type as no mockable members, because that is a 3, and I think that's the error that we were seeing, right? 3, yep. Okay, so let's put that, let's break this up now. Let's run this test. And it passes. Okay. We're close. I think we're getting there. We're getting there, folks. You know he's listening to me. We're getting there. Not build, succeeded, run tests. You jackass. The solo that I was doing on the first set of songs I did with Mike. I used my PRS and also a Charvel guitar that I had when I got in college. I got to get that one fixed because I think the pots got dirty and it crackles now when you turn the volume down and stuff. But I love that guitar. It's such a great guitar to do soloing on. I always like the sound of it and also the feel of it. All right, cool. Let's close all windows, shut down, start up again. So we're running all the tests now, if it lets me. Yep, build succeeded, which is good. That means we didn't bust anything on the integration tests. Typically, if it build succeeded, I rarely, if ever, will break the integration tests that are there. Could add integration tests to show that I won't get instance members on there now, but I think I'm good with that because, again, if I want to support the static abstract, well, I could add an integration test there as well. Let's see where we go with this, because then the last thing I want to do is run code-gen tests. If that works, then we're in the clear. Let's run all the code-gen tests and let's see what we did. So how you doing? How's everybody doing? You know what I can do? Because this usually takes me 3 minutes. Let's mix up a Rubik's Cube. I'm not a speed solver at all, by any means whatsoever. Let's see if I can do it with the clumsy and I'll put it up in front of the camera here. Man, this is going to be fun to do this way. And not drop it and cause merry chaos. That. And then we do this and this. This. Look what I can do. Yes. Whoops. Knowing my luck, it hit the key that actually stopped the stream, but it didn't. Good. Yeah, solved it. Rubik's Cubes are fun to solve. Just pass the time. I'm not a speed solver with it by any means, but... Let's see where we get with this one. Generative AI. I have no idea what that... Well, it's AI. I have no idea what the library actually does, but I included it. So... Come on, please don't... Just have those errors that I'm expecting. Please don't show like 5,000. And end on the right with the end of the song because it's all triumphant at the end of it. Come on. Get through Twilio. Come on, Twilio. Come on. Yes! Score. I don't care. Nobody's watching. I'm happy. All right. All right. I'm loving it. This is why I still love coding. It's always fun to figure stuff out and get it done as right as you possibly can make it. Like I said, what I should do here in the integration tests is with interface static virtual tests. So we want to have interface static virtual tests. Okay. It's a weird one. Weirdo. I don't know why it did that. So this is where we do like namespace, interface, static, virtual test types, because we want to have our test types there. Let's actually go down to our tests and grab one that is just this case. No. This code. Yes. Okay. And then we say the name of the... Yeah, I followed a little bit of a weird convention with this one. Public static class. Maybe static virtual tests. Okay, and we want to have a test public static void create, and we'll get that done in a second. And then we also want the make version. And if I remember right, yeah, we have a mock definitions here. So what I want to put is let's kind of figure out where we want to put it first. Okay, cool. Except we want static there. And now we should be able to say var expectations is equal to new I have static virtuals create. I know this is the one thing that's weird too, is that you start like it doesn't know what that is, and so we want to say expectations on methods. I just have to now know what I'm instance lift. We're going to call that, and it's going to have a return value. This does not happen when you reference it from the NuGet package. It's just this weird package with a project reference thing that I'm doing here. We're just going to say returns A. We don't care. And then expectations, properties, getter, instance, push, return value B, and then we're also going to expect it to be set. How do we do? Forget. When don't have the IntelliSense set data. Wait. Oh, because that's actually the name of it, right? Yeah. Okay. Except, would you do that? Oh, you're passing in when you think it should be. Yeah. So here we'd say we're expecting it to be called passing in a C. And now we save our mock is equal expectations instance. We're going to set on the mock the instance push is equal to C. We're now going to, no, not that. We're going to say expectations verify. We're also going to have assert multiple. We're going to say assert that mock.instance push is equal to not C, but B. And then we're also going to say that assert that mock.instance lift should be equal to A. And it failed. Of course it failed. Even though see, that's the these are the real things. It's getters and setters. And now it'll run. Yeah. I blame Visual Studio for that. That's not my fault. And then here we can just say var mock is equal to new I have make expectations dot instance, and then I can say assert that mock instance lift is equal to the default of a string. I have no idea why I put all those there. And we want to do well, I don't really know what I want to assert here, because there's just kind of a dummy thing. What do I do here? Stop it. Stop hitting the insert key. I need to just rip that off. Yeah. We can also say that assert that calling instance push is equal to the default of a string. And that we can call the setter equals A. We don't care. And that works. And all tests should now work again. And I think I can call this closed. Come on. And we're good. All right, off camera, off the stream, I'm going to update the changelog and then do all the merging, and then this should be done. But it only took 2 hours to figure, well, there was some babbling at the beginning, but it took less than 2 hours to actually get this fixed and fixed correctly. That's how long it takes sometimes, especially with a project like this and a framework or whatever you want to call it, a package like this that provides the functionality of mocking. It can get very complicated. And as I've said in many of my free code session videos, I say this time and time again: test. If you are a developer, you test your code. You test every inch of that code. And I'll even say things like this. If you have, oh, I just have a record that just has read-only properties on it. Oh, I just have this thing that just has these properties on it. I know they're getters and setters. Why do I need to test that? You know that your method is just going to return the concatenation of two strings. Why should I test that? Well, that's what the compiler's doing. Somebody 6 months later can come in and change that property to suddenly having a custom implementation around the getter. Unlikely, probably, but it could happen. That's what testing is for. At least part of the reason you have testing is for future proofing. What happens if somebody comes in and does that and then your tests fail? Now they had a guard in there to say, oh wait, we used to do something somewhere with this and now we're changing this, and that was unexpected. And I know cynical people out there could just say, well, then people are just going to delete those tests because they got to get something out to production. I know that happens, but that's a behavioral thing at a company that they have to change the mindset on that. There is no, there's not a ton that I'm adamant on about writing code. But one of them I am absolutely adamant on is you need to test. You need to write tests. Just do it. I'm not saying you need to hit a certain percentage of coverage. Good tests have high coverage. High coverage does not mean your tests are good. But write tests to test things as thoroughly as you can. Mutation testing is another thing that's good to discover when you haven't really covered a condition in your code correctly. It's complicated and it's computationally expensive to use mutation testing, but that's another thing you can use. But just like this show tonight, you write tests that will uncover things that will potentially show you made some incorrect assumptions in things. And by doing what I did, I mean, it ended up showing that, yes, I had fixed it, but I really didn't fix it the right way. And I'm glad that I went through the extra 9 yards or whatever you want to call it to added tests, uncovered some issues with the implementation, which is now fixed. All right. And of course, these notes are just like, that's it. That's all I have in my notes. But watch the stream. Watch the VOD, because then you can watch it later and see what I did, and I can get rid of this too. But I am good. I'm good with this. I think we're in a good spot. Again, I will put the changelog change in and do the merge once I'm done with the stream. But I like doing these. Again, they're literally just random. I do them whenever I want. You know, when I feel like there's something I can tackle in an hour or two on a stream and just start coding. And I like this thing that I have with the music in the background. Like I said, this might push me to start writing just my own music, if only for the stream to have something more there that I can play along with as I potentially do more streaming, or whenever I do streaming for coding, not for video games, but for coding. So with all that said, I want to say thank you for anybody who's been watching this. If you watch it later, again, please subscribe. I would highly appreciate it if you did so. I really want to get above that 1,000 number, so the more subscriptions, the better. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you got a thing or three out of this. And I will be streaming tomorrow, hopefully, or Sunday starting Mass Effect. So if you're interested in that, check that out. Again, thanks for watching. Take care, and I hope to see you in a future stream. Goodbye.